As we find that feminist inquiry is primarily a social inquiry which considers that our understanding is relational, our understanding is provisional, our understanding is open-ended. And with these background assumptions, a variety of methods are used to understand the reality as it emerges in real life contexts, and uh, the effort is to change the situation. I'm reminded of the work of Paul Freire, the critical pedagogy, who in 60s and subsequently a lot of work is going on. There's a whole lot of work which comes with this critical pedagogy. So one of the important tasks which is being performed by feminist inquiry is to offer the critique of the uh, kind of understanding, kind of policy, and kind of social arrangement which is taking place. It's very unfortunate that our theorization in social sciences has been primarily male dominated. And there are many implications of that. Women are missing from the whole discourse. And the entire analysis is in favor of men. Uh, we don't have enough time to discuss, but if you look at the famous work of Freud, who talked about penis envy and development of woman's identity and the issues of Oedipus complex and all that, that gives a very peculiar perspective, which was further, developed by others like Erik Erikson, who also tried to move a bit, but who could not move a lot. And the body became very important. The anatomy became very important. Physiology became very important. And uh, gradually it was realized that there is a need to break from these perspectives and see the inequalities which are coming up. I would like to refer to an important work which was done by Carol Gilligan, who has written a very important book in a different voice. And she argued that the notion of morality, which is a very important theme, is theorized in terms of justice, and the whole framework is male dominated. And she comes with the idea that care, responsibility are the features of morality which are significant for women. And she has offered a new framework to understand morality. Similarly, the kind of challenge which has been given to the study of uh, woman's identity has given many important differences in viewing reality, and uh, the choice which is available and the kind of opportunity which should be made available to women. These questions have been raised. It's very unfortunate that the whole structure of society is such that women are subjected to all kinds of atrocities, violence, and it happens on road, in house, and in various places. Now it's a part of our reality, and if we ignore this, we are not going to address the kind of inequality which is present in society. So the study of uh, uh, women's issues in the departments of women's studies or gender studies, they focus, uh, and as a matter of fact, they appear to be some kind of a movement, some kind of an action-oriented project. So there is very close relationship between this kind of participative engagement and study of the phenomenon, right? This kind of active engagement and involvement is a crucial component which should be taken into account. And also, uh, it is important to note that to a large extent, it becomes a kind of political move. Let us accept it, that this engagement cannot be apolitical. You can't say that. Now, the issue of patriarchy and what is the role of that, the kind of difference which is available in the opportunities in different kinds of jobs, the invisibility and the lack of recognition of their women's contribution in different parts of the world, all, all these things have been tackled by researchers who have dedicated to study the issues of women. Now, it is important to note that women's issues are not related to one particular domain of study like sociology or economics or political science or history. So the structure of inquiry and structure of study itself becomes multidisciplinary. You need to even study literature, you need to study history, and you need to recognize the contribution of different areas. History becomes very, very important factor. So this is a kind of a paradigm shift, if we call it, in terms of patterning of the academic structure. I remember that in India it was SNDT University in Mumbai where the first such center for study of women was created. I think it took place around 1980, and then there were many such studies which were supported by ICSSR, UGC, and various agencies, and sociologists, economists, people from different backgrounds participated in that. Several NGOs have also participated in this process. And role of women in socio-political processes was recognized. And what is the woman's angle or what is woman's perspective to understand reality? This received attention. I also remember, I think it was 75 or so, that towards equality, report was brought, was published, and attempts were made to focus on different areas. In particular, the areas of health, employment, political participation, division of labor, and equality in relation to delivery of justice. These received important, initiatives by researchers. Also, the different kinds of exploitation which are taking place. How to understand that? What are the implications of patriarchy? These were the issues which were taken. I remember one of my students who wanted to study women's identity. And I still remember that she did her MPhil using a Hindi novel, Woman's Identity, as reflected in a novel by Surendra Burma. The title of novel is Mujhe Chand Chahiye. And there we find that how a girl from village gradually takes interest and moves and goes to Bombay and film life, and what are the changes that are taking place. It's very interesting. And subsequently, that student became interested in looking at the images of women, and she completed her PhD on women's identity in post-New Wave Hindi films. And she analyzed 5 Hindi films. She went to Pune Film Institute to understand how film is studied. So what I want to emphasize is that you have to change the perspective of doing research. So feminist inquiry is open to a variety of materials, a variety of sources, a variety of orientations to examine social reality. And with this, we find a change which was earlier purely quantitative, positivist, and now it is moving towards qualitative, and subjectivity is recognized, and we try to understand that. But it's a difficult task. How you take input from different disciplines. Reality is very complex. Reality does not come and tell that, well, I should be studied by an economist or by a psychologist or by some other discipline expert. So we need to understand the relevance of different perspectives or the input that we get from different disciplines should be recognized, and how that can be integrated to create an understanding of the social reality which we find in society. In Indian context particularly, the challenge that we find is that at least 3 kinds of social processes are very central. If you look at the issue which is important for gender studies, the issue of the marginalized women who are in the margins of society and who come from different backgrounds, like dislocation or destitution, poverty. There are many such issues which are becoming very important in our context. With globalization, some new features have come up. Uh, there are issues which are related to gender. For example, adoption becomes a very important issue these days. There is another important context which requires our attention, and that is multicultural scenario. In India itself, we have a variety of social structures, uh, caste divisions, and regional variations, linguistic and religion related variation is a dominant feature of our society. So, what are the implications of this social diversity for women's issues, how they influence? We need to understand that. Similarly, there is a need to uh, understand that what kind of empowerment processes can be uh, deployed. Now, Indian society is undergoing transformation. Uh, the rural and the urban, and then you have mega cities. How this change is going to influence and shape the life of women is becoming an important concern. So, how one can empower women who are in need, because disparity is there, inequality is there. There are official provisions, there are constitutional amendments which have tried to address some of the issues, but I don't think that we have reached the goal of equality in connection with gender. We still have to go a long way. Uh, but empowerment only through the official arrangements and changes in constitution and laws is not enough. I think community participation and awareness is also equally important. How we are going to do that? Media is playing an important role. And if you look at the various serials, you will see that it's an important intervention. And you have different, you know, pathways and trajectories which are being followed. So that has an impact, and it's going to change the mindset of people. Similarly, the leadership is another area which is politically very crucial. And if we provide opportunity to women to assume leadership role, that becomes very important. We know about the Panchayati Raj and women sarpanch, and the tragedy is there that sometimes you have the sarpanch woman, but her husband is actually ruling. So there are many complexities which are there, and particularly in villages, because lack of education and limited resources, you see that in this leadership role is not very effective. But there are some good, examples also where these women in leadership role have contributed to betterment of the condition in village in different areas. So we need a multi-pronged approach to empower women in our context. Research which is more open to diverse perspectives, approaches, different kinds of data will be required. It may not be as systematic as we find in the quantitative research. Qualitative research is one where a researcher himself or herself is the main source of, or main tool, main instrument. You have to interpret, you have to understand. So I often try to suggest that here it is the subjectivity of researcher which becomes a tool to understand the subjectivity of the participants. So we need to handle with care these subjectivities. And I hope that this is going to bridge the gap in our understanding. And in order to have a, complete or comprehensive picture of society, it is important to work not only data collection and to depict what is the situation of women, but to contribute to knowledge. I want to make a distinction. Knowledge creation, where you move in terms of conceptualization and abstraction, and mere data collection and describing the numbers and the cases and all that. That also has a purpose. But we need to move beyond that stage and move towards conceptual breakthroughs and theorization. The feminist inquiry, if you look at that in detail, you will see that it creates greater sensibility to subjectivity, to context, to relationality, and creates a kind of revolution in social understanding. This kind of initiative is still, I will say, has just started. It is limited in scope, and we need to uh, uh, move forward and to give space to these studies and these initiatives in our academic life. We need to recognize that, and the qualitative methods provide enough opportunities. I would like to close this discussion by mentioning that the qualitative researchers go even for autoethnography, a method where the person explores one's own selfhood that has now been accepted as a way to understand reality. So you are researching yourself. So you are very close to subjectivity. With these words, I would like to conclude that women's studies offer a new perspective which is considered as complementary in the context of entire research process in social sciences, but in certain ways it moves beyond the existing way of theorization and understanding. Let us give a space to that in our academic context. Thank you very much.